frustrating. I find it more of the time I'm frustrated with myself. You know, I mean, I think you have to be easy on yourself. That's like take it easy on yourself. That's my big sort of lesson that I've learned, I think, over the years, is that as an actor, ultimately, you know, you have to get the best performance you can out of yourself. As a director, you have to get it out of the actor, and that can be confusing sometimes, how to do that, because you're looking for guidance, and, you know, most of the time I'm wishing I had a director there telling me, you know, if it was good or not, or giving me some guidance, and it's not there. So you have to sort of, I give myself as much leeway as possible, especially the last few times out. I try to like do more takes than I would normally do, so that I can sort of almost bracket things and give myself as much to work with in the editing room as possible. But ultimately, it's just frustrating because you want to be two places at once. And I think the other thing I would say is just to be incredibly aware of how much your other actors need you there as a director. I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of, when you're doing scenes that you're in and you're trying to worry about your own performance, you know, that you have to be aware that the other actors are there in the scene and are looking for guidance too as a director. So for me, it just comes down to, like, I prep as much as possible, spend as many days and weeks and months getting ready for the day we shoot, so that on the day that we shoot, I can devote as much to the actors, including myself, as possible.
Hi, Ben.
Hi.
I'm Sharon. The film was fantastic.
Thank you.
I always love how you take a character that is like an underdog or a nerd or whatever, and then you seem to surpass everything and really touch the audience with so much, just so much great emotion. It's wonderful. But my question is there, you've done so many great films, is there one particular one that's special to you? And if so, why is that more special?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, you know, a lot of times the movie itself is maybe, in terms of like what's special, I guess maybe I would think two questions there. But a movie that's special, that I love the movie or feel connected to the movie?
One of your films
right.
that you've been in that, you know, you feel like that one is like your special film. I mean, I know you're going to do many more great films to come, but...
Right. Okay, good. No, thank you. I'm glad you believe me. No, I mean, I was thinking, like, you know, there are experiences I remember of having an incredible experience where the movie was, where I know that I wasn't that great in the movie. In particular, there's like the second movie I ever was in, I had a sort of a secondary role in this movie called Fresh Horses with Andrew McCarthy and Molly Ringwald in like 1987, I think. And that was one of the best experiences I ever had in a movie. I suck in the movie. I am horrible. I'm literally like, it's like I'm on drugs or something. I'm like I'm just doing way too much, and it's horrible. But the experience of making the movie is one of the best experiences I ever had. It was the first time I ever got to go on location. This director, David Onspa, was really nice. He directed Hoosiers, and he hired me in this movie, and it was just an incredible, fun fall that we spent in Kentucky and Ohio in 1987, and I'll always remember it. In terms of like movies that I feel, you know, proud of or connected to, there's a movie called Permanent Midnight that it was a really good experience that I had also a long time ago. And I became very good friends with Jerry Stahl, the guy I played in the movie, and we're still sort of best friends to this day. So that's one that I feel good. And I love Zoolander too, because I feel like. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thanks. You're definitely not retired. Okay.
No. I loved you in Avatar, by the way.
Thank you.
I just wanted to commend you. I happen to be a huge, though I'm not an AARP, I saw the Danny Kaye version years ago as a kid. My dad was like, you have to watch this. And I love that movie. And at first I was skeptical when I saw this a few months ago, the trailer for it. I was like, oh man, that's like one of my favorite movies. But I think you did a visually dynamic film, an emotionally engaging story, and I think it was beautiful. So I just wanted to say that. I have a two-part question. I'm curious about frame 25, because it seems like the whole movie, it was set up that frame 25 possibly wasn't going to get shown in the end. Was there ever a point with the story that you were sitting there debating whether or not to show it? and give us that emotional satisfaction, or not show it and let it be in our imagination and crave that desire of wanting to see it? And then the second part of my question is, can I shake your hand after the answer?
Part two, no. No, you know, I honestly am, I have to say I'm not, maybe I'm not bold enough as a filmmaker to ever have considered not showing it, you know, because I think that would be a pretty bold move too, or never even tested the movie that way, or, you know, maybe it's also because when I read the script, that hit me so hard when I read the script that you know, I couldn't imagine not putting it in. There was one point when I considered, and we never even tried it in editing, but I considered like maybe not showing it right then at that moment, and showing it after they walk away from it, and my editor, Greg, convinced me that wasn't a good idea, so we didn't do it.
Obviously, I'm not in AARP.
You should be like in the American Association for Young People.
I think, you know, the film, for me, it really spoke to me, and I think, like, that's a wonderful experience, you know, when the film speaks to your, you know, I guess any form of art, and, you know, especially being the director and acting in the film, what did you personally take from, you know, now that the project's done?
Well, it's been an incredible experience for me making the movie, because I've spent pretty much like the last 3 years of my life working on it, and it's been a gift to me to have something that I felt that connected to engage in for that long, you know, to have this experience with it, from the relationships and friendships that I've had that have come out of making the movie, people I've met, people in Iceland who I didn't know before, who I'm friends with now, and the working experience I had with people I've worked with, like Greg, my editor, and Jeff Mann, our production designer, who are good friends of mine who I've worked on other movies with, but we grew closer. And honestly, to have an experience of making something that for me was a different experience as a director, because I never had a different criteria in which to mold the movie. In comedies, I always look at them as real movies. You know, the other movies I've directed, even, you know, Zoolander, yes, they're broad and silly, but there's always a reality level to them that I feel that you have to be consistent with and treat the characters as real people, as crazy or ridiculous as they are. And this one, you know, but ultimately those movies, when you put them in front of an audience, you know, they're coming to see a comedy. And this movie, I didn't know exactly what genre it would fall into, or if it would fall into a specific one. But in starting to put the movie in front of people, I realized early on that the comedy and the laughs, which we're used to judging the movie by, were not the way to judge the film in terms of, you know, how the audience was engaging with it. And it had this other engagement, which was the story and the character. And that was really a great experience for me to have as a director. I think it's a really great learning experience, and I look forward to doing that more in the future and having, you know. But I also like comedies. I don't think movies have to be categorized every time. So.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
And also, thank you for bringing the only actor who's 5'7", because I was like,
yes,
I'm like the only short person who's.
Yeah, because Dustin Hoffman's like 5'6". So. It makes me feel good.
Tom Cruise isn't much taller, right?
He's taller than you think.
I was wondering about the music, how you dealt with that. I work in that kind of area of filmmaking. So the score versus the needle drops, kind of how you balance them, because the needle drops really did have a lot of impact.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, the way that I start out is I put together, I have a friend of mine who I've also worked with for a long time named George Strakulias, who's a great music producer, and I've known him for about probably over 20 years, and a music supervisor. So we put together a playlist of songs at the beginning of the process, that music that sort of feels like the movie, and for me that's really important. Like it gets me going, and it'll be big, like maybe like 200 or 300 songs, and then we'll start to sort of hone it down, and then by the time we got to shooting, we had about 30 songs that we really liked, and I gave everybody on the crew and the cast, a thumb drive with the songs, just to let them know the vibe. We played it on the set a lot, which you know, is something that I think is a great thing to just give a feeling when you're working. And then when we start to edit the movie, I knew Theodore Shapiro was going to do the score, who I'd worked with before, and he's a really, I feel, very, very special composer. And we talked a lot about the music that the songs that I'd you know, chosen. And he listened to that, and we also knew we wanted to have an orchestral score, but there was an element that I wanted to have, which was Walter's voice, and to feel that there was a consistent voice throughout the movie. And as we listened to different songs, there was this one guy named Jose Gonzalez that I really, really liked what he recorded this cover of a song called Teardrop by Massive Attack. And I heard it on iTunes, and I said, this is incredible. And started to listen to more of his music. And so when we started to edit the movie, I got in touch with him. He lives in Sweden, and I asked him to come and take a look at a rough cut of the movie. And he came to my house, and we watched the movie, and we talked about it. And he said, yeah, I'd be into, you know, trying some stuff. So him and Teddy got together, and they started to work on Teddy's score. And he started to hum Teddy's score. And what we did was we ended up putting his voice throughout the movie, having him hum the score along with the orchestra. And then he has a band called Junip, and we used a couple of their songs. And what I tried to do as we went through editing was to just hone it more and more so there were less and less different unique songs in the movie. However, there are 2 or 3 songs that are just their own thing. But the majority of music is, and the ones that aren't the score are Jose. And that to me was just like, it's sort of like a slow sort of honing process.
Yeah, I saw his name there. That's cool.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. He's got an incredible voice, and every time he sings something, it makes it so special, I think.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you guys for coming so much. Obviously, it felt like the movie had some pretty big things to say about like life and how we live it. So I was just wondering how you balance that to make sure those big emotional beats came off as honest and true and not like overly sentimental or like too saccharine.
You know, I think it's a very personal thing, and it's a good question, I think. You know, again, this was new territory for me in that way, and because I'm used to, you know, making movies that probably are like, probably more cynical in that, you know, in terms of, you know, they're satiric, and this, for me, was, it was scary sometimes, because I was like, wow, is this too much? And it's like just a conversation that ultimately you have with yourself, and I love Teddy's music, and I feel like sometimes music can take things in a direction. I feel like everybody has a personal reaction to music and scoring of movies, and I love a moment in a movie where something really emotional can happen and there's no music, but I also love moments in movies that music contributes to that. And then there's that point where you go, well, when is the music cheating it or whatever? And I think that's a personal decision that you have with, you know, with yourself, and I think everybody's going to always have their own opinion. But I just kind of went from what I felt inside, and you know, ultimately I loved Teddy's music. I loved his score. The theme that he came up with for Walter, to me, was really just indicative of this guy who had all this stuff going on inside of him, this sort of a nobility to it that this regular guy deserved, even though the whole world wasn't seeing it. So I you know, very honestly, I fell in love with that score, and it moved me when I would listen to it. And so I tried to just kind of judge from my own thing, and you know, and then at a certain point you go, all right, I'm just going to go with this because I take a shot, and this is what I feel.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
So, yeah, I guess